Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Shawn Mackey Show. He's so unpredictable. Mother Nature calls him for advice. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Shawn Mackey here with the Shawn Mackey Show, Season 2, Episode number 12, Bears versus Commanders. And once again, some more NCAA Top 25. Oh my goodness. Where do we start with that Bears game? I'll tell you what, at the very beginning of the game, I liked what I saw. The Bears were able to put up some run yards early on that drive. They pick up 3. Jake Moody's kick gets them on the leadership board. I thought at the beginning of the game, Caleb Williams had some poise in the pocket, it looked like. Wasn't doing too bad, but then as the course of the game went on, and now kudos to the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams actually drives them down in the fourth quarter to put them in field goal range, in which they kick the field goal and beat the Commanders 25-24. The exact same score, basically off of a kick that the Bears beat the Raiders 25-24. First team to do it in, a whole bunch of years, when the Bears actually got beat by another team, and I can't remember the name of that team. Shit. So anyway, that was some good stuff that we saw from that game. I will tell you what, I had some issues with officiating, as did many people. The posts and, oh my goodness, the comments and everything, even on Bears Wire, the dud in their studs and duds feature was the penalties. Now, some of those they were ticky-tack, and that was the officiating. Terrible illegal formation penalty on Theo Benedette that, even Troy Aikman said that shouldn't have been, and they looked fine. And then the referee booth, the broadcast referee, said the same thing, and they took that touchdown off the board on a tremendous catch by Rome Odunze. Unbelievable. Locked up with the defender. Thought the defender should have been called for something, holding, pass interference, slapping that hand down, kind of grabbing at his jersey, and Dunze just kind of fucking all the way around, drops it right in, boom, lands inbounds, touchdown, no penalty on the flag, or flag on the play. Stupid ass shit. Trying to look and see, and I swear that I had something saved on who the hell that Bears team lost to so many years ago when it was the exact same score back to back, but not important. Anyway, and so then there was a call against, was it Loveland, for offensive pass interference. First quarter, I liked what I saw from the Bears offensive line. They were getting a lot of push downfield. Hell, it was the best rushing day DeAndre Swift's had for the Bears. 14 carries, 108 yards, right? He also has 67 yards receiving with that one touchdown. So an overall great day for DeAndre Swift. Great day for a lot of other players. Had some injuries. DJ Moore, hopefully haven't really seen. They're kind of keeping that under wraps. Something about a groin, but he had to spend the night in the Washington hospital after that game for precautionary measures. Hope he's doing okay. Caleb Williams still needs to work on the check down, the dump offs, the freaking short little passes that he either zings in there at 100 miles an hour or he throws them low. There was that one reception. They called it a reception for DeAndre Swift, but upon further review, right, the ball touches the ground, so incomplete pass. And I'll get into that in a minute. My opinions on what's going on with the officiating and everything, not just in that game. That University of Texas El Paso report came out, and they did that study on the Chiefs. They're saying the report's legitimate based on how they went about it. The scientific method, probably just looking up a whole bunch of stats for Chief playoff games. And then, of course, the league is saying, no, it's not legitimate. Our refs are graded every week and do the playoffs based on merit. But, of course, the NFL's going to denounce it. You still can't. You see all the posts out there. People are like, this is scripted and watch this. And they break down the film. And, you can't help but wonder, it is entertainment, right? So there's a good chance that it would be scripted. But, anybody, you play the game, and if you got dedicated athletes on the field who want to win, right? I mean, the game still has to be played, but yes, it can absolutely, poor officiating can absolutely tilt the scales in one direction or another. At times during this Bears game, I wondered where was the Bears defense? I mean, I made a post on Facebook. I'm like, where did the defense go all of a sudden? There was one particular series and they put pressure on Daniels and they got him. I think it was right after a sack. And then they were like 3rd and 12. And then all of a sudden, he's technically rushing 4, but 3 down linemen on defense and then kind of a spy linebacker. And Daniels beat you for the first down, right? So where was the defense all of a sudden? Kyler Gordon came back for this game. He actually on Bears Wire got graded out poorly, I want to say. Yep, Kyler Gordon got graded out by Bears Wire at a 52.2 as one of the worst defensive grades. That's something I wanted to talk about, this Bears Wire article. So, they go out and they give them these grades. And I've never really looked into how they do the grading. I think I've made it very clear over the course of this show that I'm not a big, I take the stats I grew up reading, right? You get the newspaper and then they give you those limited stats. You didn't really have the computer, not while I was growing up, but my dad had the football reference guide, the sporting news, I think it was, the football reference guide, the baseball reference guide. So I would look up stats all the time on these players, and it was great you read their bio and then you find out, oh, they got a brother that played in the league or a cousin. And now you got to look that person up. And it's just a page in a book, maybe dedicated to each individual player, front and back, or facing to facing, depending on how the chapters or the sections are thrown out there. And so I go with the basic stats. I don't get into the PFFs, the grades, completion percentage, and, that's fine. But then quarterback rating, and I've seen they get a rating for the game, and then they have the quarterback rating, and they're very different. And I know Caleb Williams got also graded out as one of the worst offensive grades at a 46 by Bears Wire. And I would say, that touchdown to Odunze stays on the board. Maybe his grade goes up into the 70s, and it's not that bad. But overall, I look at together, he had a better game than Jaden Daniels, number 1 and number 2 picks last season for their respective teams. And for a while, I will be honest, I absolutely felt at some point that maybe the Bears missed out by not taking Jaden Daniels, just the way, he gets them to the national NFC title game, and he had an outstanding year. But statistically, I think that he had a better game than Jaden Daniels. So Jaden Daniels was 19 of 26 for 263 yards. He had 3 TDs, 1 touchdown, or 1 interception. I'm sorry. Nice pick by Brisker there early on to end that drive. But, Caleb Williams, actually, Jaden Daniels probably percentage-wise was a little bit better. He missed 7 passes. Caleb missed like 12. So Caleb was 17 of 29 for 252 yards with 2 total TDs. He had that 1 rushing TD. And, I'm sure by now everybody's heard and they've commented on the posts and this whole Troy Aikman and kind of how he was dissing Caleb Williams. And I'll be honest, I didn't even really hear it. I don't pay attention to them all that often. I'm focused in on the game, 1. 2, when I see stupid ass plays by the Bears or the poor officiating that we saw on Monday night, I'm yelling at the TV, right? So I don't even hear what they say. I did not hear a lot of it, but apparently Troy Aikman's got some big issues with Caleb Williams. And so that led people to dig out, probably went to their football reference guide, get them stats, compared Caleb Williams to Troy Aikman through their first 22 career games, since that's where Caleb Williams sits. So Williams, 4,720 passing yards, 29 TDs to 8 interceptions, a 90 rating, and a 62.3 completion percentage. And we know Aikman absolutely sucked in his first year and a half, because Dallas sucked at that point. Former number 1 pick as well. 165 passing yards, 17 TDs, 33 interceptions. Aikman, what are you talking about? 59.1 rating and a 53.8 completion percentage. So now what does this tell you? Stats similar? Not so much. Caleb Williams kind of leading all the categories there. Troy Aikman goes on to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. wins 3 Super Bowls. Are we saying maybe that's the potential Caleb Williams has? I'd take it. Oh, I'd take it. I'd jump on that bandwagon right there. I'd still be critical, but I'm going to take that comparison. And if the trajectory stays the same and Chicago owners and Ben Johnson have finally starting to get their heads out of their asses, Ryan Poles haven't liked what he's done, still think the depth is lacking for the Chicago Bears that could push them over the top. So I guess we'll see what happens with Caleb Williams. We know now what Troy Aikman did in his first 22 career games. I'll let you decide for yourself, okay? So this Bears Wire also puts out an article where they do their studs and duds. And I was looking at that as well. And they had mostly studs this week. And I'm like, that's cool. I'd like to do a studs or duds. But, you don't want to rip somebody off and say studs or duds. So I don't know. I came up my greats and ain'ts. That's what I'm going to do when I discuss the games and recap for you. I'm going to provide you with my greats and my ain'ts. Now, one of my greats, DeAndre Swift, matches up with Bears Wire as one of their studs. But come on, 108 yards, best career rushing game with the Bears. 67 yards receiving, touchdown. How can you not say he was a great part of that football game? Hopefully, this offensive line gels and just improves on what we saw Monday night. I thought they did great. They came into this game, Troy and Joe Buck, talking about Washington's, or maybe it was the pregame before that I caught before the game started. So someone was talking about Washington's running defense is like one of the tops in the league. And how would the Bears fare as the running game's been a sore spot? Have not been seeing Roschon Johnson as much coming off of an injury, but he's doing a hell of a job on special teams. And so they're trying to get him in. He had 1 carry for 6 yards. So not bad. He scored a bunch of touchdowns last year. He's a big bruising first down on 3rd and short, 4th and short, a bruising kind of running back. And with this newer, improved offensive line, we could start to see some, and if not all of these guys, Monangai, DeAndre Swift, getting into the running game, okay? So with that being said, obviously Darnell Wright matches up with one of Bears Wire studs because you got to give it to this guy. Big old elbow brace on that right arm. But every time you're watching that and the Bears are picking up 6, 7, 8 yards on a carry, especially DeAndre Swift, Darnell Wright is right there with him. No pun intended, leading the way, downfield blocking. Theo Benedette, for some reason, Bears Wire grades him out as one of the worst offensively with like a 62 point something. Yeah, 62 point something. But I thought the kid showed tremendous improvement. I thought he held himself really well. That penalty, that wasn't on him. That was bullshit all the way around. So who knows, right? I think the kid did a great job. Hell, DeAndre Swift averaged 7.7 yards a carry. Monangai, 3.8 in his 5 carries. Okay, DJ Moore, his 2 carries, he averaged 5 yards. The Bears were getting pressure. As a team rushing, the Bears, let's see, 145 rushing yards combined. That's awesome. That shows a great and an improved offensive line. So we'll have to see what happens there. Okay. I would have liked to see more from Luther Burden III, but he absolutely was a great this week for the Bears. And, look once again, it matches Bears Wire. But yeah, I read the Bears Wire article. I kind of agree with it. One of their studs. But I think I would have liked to see a little bit more from Luther Burden III. He had 4 receptions for 51 yards, so 12.8 yards of reception. That was absolutely great. But I think we need to get this guy. You got Odunze, you've got Burden III when DJ Moore's healthy. Now we get Cole Kmet, Colston Loveland. Now we got to start. This line gets better. And now Caleb grows some more, has some poise in the pocket like he showed early on in that game. Got the 1-5 Saints coming up on Sunday. That's going to be a little bit different for the broadcast, as I will be broadcasting from a different location for that episode. I decided to try that out. You know what? With everything going on with the blog, so much to learn have such little time to learn it in. Not really, I'm saying I got a lot of time, so I kind of learn as I go. So you're just going to keep getting the episodes. And as I can tweak it, like I've always said, and make it better, I'm going to absolutely do that. Got some great tips on audio editing. So hopefully that's been a little bit better as well. But some of my ain'ts for the Bears this week, I thought, was Nashawn Wright. I don't know, he had a couple penalties. Defensively, he had 4 tackles, 1 assist. And they never give you the statistics on, like, how many times was was his receiver targeted, how many pass defenders. You can find, like, a pass defended stat somewhere. But I was like, why don't they ever have how many targets? And it's like, it's one of those stats that's too many circumstances. It's not as easy to put together. So that's weird that there's a stat out there that I think should be done, even though I'm not a big stat guy. But I just, if it's out there already, I can't seem to find it and to see what I'm actually looking for. But in all honesty, if I'm looking for something and I don't find it right away, my mind, unpredictable, flips back and forth, that I kind of move on, because I'm not going to really dig into something and do a deep dive, especially if it's just something that I think should be easily accessible. And maybe it is, and I'm just, electronically challenged or whatever it is. Fuck, boy, quit trying to be politically correct. You just stupid. All right. So I thought, here we go. One of my other greats is Devin Duvernay. 5 kick returns for 120 yards. That was pretty good. He had averaging picking up 24, 25 yards a carry. That gets you closer depending on where he receives the ball anyway. At the 10, 25 yards puts you at the 35. I guess you could down it, but, I thought he did really well with 5 returns for 120 yards. That kid could probably break one any minute now. All right. One of my greats, I got to go with the Bears long snapper, right? Kind of raining cold that game. Kicks coming down to the wire. 3 seconds left. Jake Moody's already missed one. Actually, it was blocked. Game on the line. Kick is good, but it doesn't get good without the long snapper doing his thing. You know what I mean? And yes, I have a soft spot for long snappers. I was a long snapper. I was an okay one. I could never long snap with 2 hands. One year I had one of my semi-pro coaches mail me a packet about an inch thick, all on something he printed off somewhere about long snapping with 2 hands. And I just never could do it. When I got down there, the way my body was and my belly I get scrunched down, and I could never get any velocity or any accuracy with the 2 hands. So I learned how. I taught myself, and I just one-handed snap, and I could get it there. And so I got a soft spot for long snappers. So yeah, I'm going to say he's one of my greats this week. And that goes out to the Bears long snapper, Scott Daly. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. And I knew it was Scott Daly, but I know he got let go this year and then brought back. How they do all that shit at the end of the preseason, where they got to fuck with the rosters and they might sign other guys. So they got to tweak it. So in their tweakings, I know he was gone and then back, which of course, why not? He's been very reliable. So I will say that he is one of my greats for this week. One of my ain'ts, I got to say, Kyler Gordon came back. He probably was a little bit rusty, but he didn't have the greatest game, in my opinion. He gave up a touchdown, I believe, if I remember correctly. He was kind of right there, but he didn't look back, didn't kind of turn his head. I felt if he'd have turned his head and got a beat on where that ball was, he could have done something, but we'll have to see how it goes. I know he tends to sometimes be a beast in the run game with the way they got him playing now. And this is a kid who came in, and I thought, oh, God, here's another Kyle Fuller. His first couple of years, but he wasn't being used correctly. So, right, Ben Johnson, well, even Eberflus last year, they changed his role, and I've seen a lot of good things from him. Unfortunately, he was hurt for a little bit there, and we'll have to just wait and see what happens as the season progresses for him. So that's my Bears. That's our Bears talk this week. I covered a lot. I'm all over the place. You all know that by now, but it is what it is. So I'm going to look at the wonkiness right now that is the NCAA ranking systems. the college ranking systems. I've talked about this before. We've talked about these sports writers for the AP Top 20 who put together their top 25. And this year it has been so absolutely wonky. Okay. And it's been so wonky that people have been writing about it. People have been making posts about it. Okay. And I've said it like, how do you not, or it's, I don't know. I think it's so arbitrary that some of the sports writers, I'm not sure what the hell they're thinking. Okay. So I saw this post from Andrew Berkey on the Heisman's page on Facebook, and he says it's questionable. And I looked at this and I've always thought it's questionable. So you've got 2-loss Notre Dame ranked 13th, and those 2 losses to number 2 Miami and number 4 Texas A&M. You have the 2-loss Illinois team who lost to Ohio State and dropped from number 9 all the way out of the AP coaches poll. You lost to the number 1 team, Ohio State. You lost to the number 3 team, Indiana. Indiana, oh my God. Kurt Cignetti deserves that contract. Indiana looks just tremendous. And that's something we could get in. But 2-loss Notre Dame is ranked number 13, and they lose to 2 and 4. Illinois loses 2 games to number 1 and 3, and they're not ranked. They don't get ranked, right? And number 21 USC, according to Berkey, is USC at 21. They lost to Illinois. So that's his take. That's his wonkiness. And I get it and I understand it because I believe it's wonky as well. So now you have the American Federation or American Football Coaches Association poll. And I'm going to tell you what, these writers write about the game, but I'm going to trust, I think now that I've discussed this on several episodes, I think I'm going to trust the AFCA coaches poll more. The coaches are the guys that played, the guys that are also, I mean, sir, there's a lot of coaches that just went into coaching and they're top ranked coaches, but they're around the game all the time, boots on the ground. They're teaching it. They're seeing it firsthand. Reporters, some of them are there. Some of them aren't. Some of them are just looking around at other news sources and writing for their opinion or for their newspaper. They don't and can't travel to every single game. We know it's impossible. But boots on the ground, football, American Football Coaches Association has Illinois at least dropping down to 25th, okay? And that's 8 spots for them. So Illinois was ranked 17th on the AFCA and ranked number 9 originally by the writers. So what were you thinking when you ranked them as high as number 9? Or what were you thinking when you dropped them out of your poll for losing to Ohio State? And I'm going to tell you what, Ohio State's still ranked number 1, but some of those losses they have had, I feel that they struggled. You're the number 1 team, and some of them, not losses, but some of those games that they had, you're the number 1 team, and you're allowing other teams to play you that closely throughout most of the game, and you eventually win, but I don't know. Not saying run up the score unmercilessly, but show a little bit more dominance for being the number 1 team, according to the AP Top 25. All right. So my Texas is not even, let's see, where are they? They're number 17 this week on the AFCA poll and number 21 on the AP Top 25. So this thing to me, the way it fluctuates, again, I've seen that before where you've got teams with almost identical records, one team losing, the 2 and 4 ranked team and the other team losing to a 1 and 3 team, and the AP writers can't even think enough to leave them in the top 25. All right. So Miami stays number 2, both polls. Indiana jumps up to number 3. And so after that, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Alabama, Texas Tech, Oregon drops 5. They were number 3 and they dropped down to 8th on the AP writers poll. 1 loss, again, a 1-loss team. And who'd you lose to? Indiana. Well, that's why. Well, that part makes sense now that I look at it. I could not remember who they lost to, and that might have just happened last week. But anyway, I just like watching the games. We'll see with this playoff, experience coming up. And that's the other thing, because then they'll use another ranking system when it gets time to determine who's going to be the 12 teams, unless they expanded it again. I don't know. I can't keep up with all of the NCAA news. I'm a pro guy. I like the Bears. I like watching as many pro games as I can, and I'll pick up the college games. But a lot of times on Saturday with kids, and always, kid was a softball player. You all know that. You listen to the podcast, and so Saturdays were always like not around. Can't even watch the games half the time. So I keep track of them wherever I can. If we go to lunch and they're on, and I'm watching 3-4 games at a place, and then I got my ESPN app on the phone. So that's why I don't dive into it much. But I do know one thing. When you look at these rankings every week and the way they go about it between the two different polls, it just, again, still boggles my mind. But I think I would much rather, for myself right now, peace of mind, put it to bed, is kind of just look at the coaches poll a little bit more, because those are the guys, like I said, with boots on the ground, down in the trenches, doing what they need to do to get their kids onto that poll. So this is like a whole bunch of coaches. I got to love it that way. So that's where I'm going to leave you. I wanted to get this episode in the books. That's all we got for today, the Shawn Mackey Show. Like I said, broadcasting from a different location and a different type of format, quite possibly, for next week's episode, after we discuss my greats and my ain'ts, and hopefully another Bears victory. 4 in a row. Bear down. All right. Peace. I'm out like Sprout. Hey, if I made you laugh, made you think, or even made you smile, please tell all your friends. If I didn't, just keep that shit to yourself. Thanks for listening to the Shawn Mackey Show.